a brief thought as I wait for sleep. If this universe is a simulation, it is not a video game simulation or a recreational simulation or an experiential simulation per se, but most likely would be a creation of another universe in order to better understand its own nature. What if a simulated universe created a simulated universe? Wouldn't that be pretty glitchy and full of nonsense and oversimplified and not really work very well and in effect pointless? So, given that we are able to discern the likelihood of simulation, at least mathematically, although not conclusively, the same should stand to reason for another universe. So, what if the results of the simulation were that their universe was also a simulation? Now, from what I understand, or think I understand, about Discordianism, it is based in the concept of apparent disorder, underlying which there is actually order. It's been my observation, the way things go. The harder you struggle, the harder it becomes. The more you exert, the less you can accomplish. This is not disorder. So, what I have seen is the concept of derealization, the idea that in extreme psychological stress, times when your when your mind is no longer able to comprehend or deal with what you're experiencing, your mind presents you with a sense of derealization, at which point it attempts to convince itself that it is a dream or otherwise a simulation. This implies that reality as we perceive it and know it is actually not a simulation, even though our perception of reality is in fact a simulation within our minds. Now, that being said, if your mind is what is showing you the reality, it's possible that nothing outside of your own sense of awareness exists except as a hallucination within that illusion, that simulated reality based on perception of actuality that your mind presents your consciousness with. This would be an odd situation, considering that the consciousness perceiving may be the only consciousness, and it itself may only be an illusion of itself. That is like what Bill Hicks said about the imagination experiencing itself. That is why I take the aneuristic principle into account. The idea of apparent order, underlying which there is no purpose whatsoever. It's not nihilistic. There is such a thing as truth, or rather, there is such a thing as verifiable fact. Whether or not a thing is true depends on the nature of the universe, depends on whether it is a simulation or not, depends on whether there is purpose or not. You can't really ask, why am I here, if there is no purpose to the universe? Because then you're more stuck with, am I here? Because why becomes an invalid question if there's no purpose. Part of my mind tells me that sitting here holding a device, or perceiving that I'm holding a device, recording an image and sound of myself, describing these things, possibly for the benefit of others, though mostly for my own, is without purpose, is an extension of that hallucinatory reality. No, I know that I'm going to go to sleep and I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to experience events. And as I've heard called, the seduction of drama is surely there. But underlying the seeming order of our lives, there may very well be no ulterior purpose. Now, if the universe is a simulation meant to understand something, chances are, unless it is anthropomorphic in nature, we are simply a byproduct of the fact that it's even occurring. And it's possible that the simulation itself is imperfect, which means that whatever results were being sought are invalid because things like conscious individuals within the simulation, aware of the fact that it's a simulation, may not be accounted for in the coding of the simulation. Therefore, if the simulation is imperfect, there is no purpose. If the simulation is perfect, then it's not a simulation. So, it's not so much nihilism, it's not the idea that nothing matters. We feel things, at least I do, that seem to matter. But regardless of the state and the nature of the universe, the experience appears to be the apparent experience. So, whether it's the concept of order, the concept of disorder, the superposition of both, which is chaos, is superficial. It is the appearance of these things. It is not necessarily the substance underlying the form. So, apparent chaos would most likely, I would think, contain underlying simplicity.